I respectfully acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, the world's oldest educators and the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was recorded, Darkinjung Jung Country, surrounded by the beautiful Booty National Park, Brisbane Water and Putty Beach. The land we learn, teach, play and walk upon always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Teaching is one of the most rewarding vocations, yet great teachers are burning out and leaving the classroom in record numbers. Welcome to the PDHPE and KLAs podcast with your host, Kel Bell. This podcast empowers busy New South Wales teachers of PDHPE, KLAs and HMS to teach with confidence, clarity and ease. I understand the challenges of teaching because I've lived them. With more than 2 decades in education, I've journeyed from classroom teacher to becoming New South Wales' trusted voice in PDHPE, community and family studies and health and movement science. Together with leading experts and teachers just like you, we're here to help you reclaim your afternoons, weekends and holidays through practical resources, supportive memberships and powerful professional learning. Ready to reclaim your time? Access your classroom-ready PDHPE, KLAs and HMS tools at thelearnnet.com/tools. So grab a cup of tea or coffee and let's chat about creating impact in your classroom without burning out in the process. Hello, and a huge welcome back to the PDHP and KLAs podcast. It is term 3, my friend, term 3, 2026. And I don't know about you, but the school holidays absolutely flew. I played mum taxi the whole holidays. If you're new to us, my name's Kel. Hello. But we have a almost 16-year-old and almost 13-year-old. So the school holidays for me was literally driving around the Central Coast. It was hectic, but I know that these days are few and far between. Spending my holidays with our girls, of course. Like I'll have school holidays, once a teacher, always a teacher, but Cass can get her L's in September. Our eldest is going to get her P's next year. And soon after that, she probably will not really want to be around us, but that's okay. That's life. That's the evolution of children, and they grow and change all the time. Like I'm a realist about that. So look, today's podcast is a juicy one. I have literally spent the whole day preparing for this because I have been listening a lot. I've been watching, I've been observing, and there's a truth behind primary PE that no one is saying out loud. There's a truth behind what has been happening in New South Wales with primary PDHPE/PE. So I have literally spent the whole day uncovering some of these things that I had no idea about. I'm a high school PDHPE teacher, if you're not aware. And obviously I love PE. I love what it stands for. I love our primary syllabus. I love our high school syllabus. But there's a bit of a background to primary PE that I had no idea about until this morning, because I just had a bubbling. I just had a gut feeling that there was something that was off. I just couldn't put my finger on it. I know that primary PE gets a bad rap in New South Wales. It is the last thing to get money for, to get budget towards. It is the first thing to go. And it's still getting a bad rap in New South Wales. So today was about uncovering some of those truths, and it stands in history. We have 150 years of this that has really led us to this point. And I thought I had a gut feeling, but I wasn't really sure. I wanted some hard and fast evidence as to what was happening, because primary teachers who are in our PDHPE membership, primary teachers who have been engaging with us, love PE, love what it stands for, but I had a feeling that there was something going on. So I wanted to do some research. So I did spend my whole morning, literally like 5 hours, to this point. So let's dive into these 5 things that I think will open your mind. We are going to create a full article of this. And let's call it thelearnnet.com/PE history And I'll share with you some information that I've found that you might find interesting as to how we've come to this point, because I've realised that a lot of primary teachers don't feel so confident teaching primary PE. I've uncovered that a lot of primary teachers don't love the idea about taking their kids out for PDHPE, for sport, for PE, because it has stemmed, I think, from this history, this rich history of primary PE having a bad rap. Okay, so the first one is this: primary PE has never really known what it is. And sport has been the thing that has brought it to its forefront. So the history of PE in Australia has stemmed from the early 1900s. A really like gymnastics perspective. And of course, we steal from other countries. We have a rich connection to the UK base for our PE perspective. So for 150 years, the word has moved and changed, and PE has shifted. So we've gone from having like gymnastics, skills, games, national fitness, and probably for the last, I reckon, 30 or so years, sport. So sport has been the thing that has really captured our country. And that's what a lot of us think physical education is about. It's about sport. Yes, of course, there are connections to sport, but it has often been the lens that it's been taught in. So a subject that doesn't know itself, isn't defined in one thing, becomes vulnerable because people don't know that its place. People aren't sure what this thing is in New South Wales and in other states across Australia. PE is something that has a really bad rap. It's got a bad reputation. And I think because it doesn't have its own identity, this is why we are in this position. And I think that sport has become the default in PE for far too long. It hasn't always been like that, but for the last probably 30 or 40 years, sport has been the thing that has really captured physical education. And maybe not the skills that it should have. So that's the first thing. We have had such a shift in Australia with primary PE. There has been such a change. Like I said, gymnastics, and then when the war was on, the war finished, and then primary and PE, and even in high schools, became more about like being fit, being ready for the war, I'm assuming, but also like that national testing, the benchmarks, the fitness tests came part of that. And so it wasn't necessarily about games or confidence. It was about, is your body ready to move? Is your body ready? There was even like marching, and I remember photos back at Nagel of the marching practices that a lot of the girls used to do in the 60s, in the 70s, and it was literally marching around a field. And a lot of the PE teachers were leading that. So that was one lens. Another lens was through gymnastics lens, that a lot of PE was gymnastics. And it was very female dominated. We know now that in a lot of primary schools, we have a very big group of females teaching primary in Australia. And look, it wasn't always like that. And certainly in high school PDHPE or PE, we probably had a fairer kind of, mix. But certainly in primary, it is a very big group of females. So look, there's lots of history. I don't want to bore you with that, but you can check out the document because I love that. I love history. I love diving into why things have evolved. The second thing that I have uncovered today is that fundamental movement skills has come and gone, and I kind of like had my ear to the ground because when I was sharing last week about sport is not PE and PE is not sport, a lot of people said, oh yeah, that's what we used to do back in the day. That's not new, Kel. I'm like, yeah, well, I know that. Like, I know this, but where did that come from? And it felt like there was a lot of experienced teachers in their 60s and maybe 70s saying this online. So I was like, there has to be a reason. So in 1992, when I would have been in year 5, there was the subject, so PE as a subject, was declared a crisis. So it was declared across Australia that we had a crisis in PE. And look, PDHPE wasn't even a thing back in the day. So a Senate inquiry followed across all states in Australia about what was happening in primary schools for PE, which I think is just like, no wonder why PE has such a bad rap. And so as a result of that, there was no syllabus in the late 90s. The mid 90s, there was no PE syllabus that teachers had to follow. So, of course, teachers who loved PE, who loved movement, would have naturally taught it well. Teachers who didn't love it, guess what happened? It was shafted. It wasn't even taught in New South Wales schools and schools across other parts of Australia. So it just disappeared. And then it wasn't until 1999 that there was a firm syllabus document created. So for such a long time, PE had no syllabus in New South Wales. And it wasn't until that point that PDHPE became part of that. Of course, I'm learning all of this, very new. So please, if there are dates that I get wrong, if I say something that's not quite historically correct, please correct me. I could have sat there all day, but I was like, no, I just want to get this out. So back then, so 1992, they realized that people were going to teach sport like PE through the sporting lens. So people who were competitive, like that's how you move your body, let's teach it through the sport lens. So of course, like people who, like myself, who were in primary school in the 90s, showing my age, yes, I'm 45 this year, guys, you can work out the maths. If you were actually in classrooms then, there was no syllabus that our teachers were going off. So you could have had a really great teacher, a great primary teacher who was teaching it, or actually not happening at all. So again, there's documents about that as well. Okay, so the next kind of stage was fundamental movement skills. Because of this national inquiry, fundamental movement skills became explicit in the 1999 syllabus, and it was called PDHPE then at that point. Like things like confidence and self-esteem and all the things that we teach now was kind of like embedded into other things. It wasn't really a curriculum. The KLAs were separated. So we then had, is it 6 KLAs? Again, correct me if I'm wrong. 6 KLAs and PDHP was developed on its own. So 1999, we had this new syllabus and, you know, so for that period where there was no syllabus, it was very hard for teachers. The document was created, Get Skilled, Get Active, which is a really great resource for current New South Wales primary teachers to use. We'll pop show links underneath here for that, but very good at breaking down the skills explicitly, the fundamental movement skills that we need for life, that we need for us to be able to move our bodies. Those fundamental movement skills were explicitly taught in that particular syllabus. But for such a long time, there was this toing and froing of this, syllabus that was happening. Was it in? Was it out? There was a draft that was in existence for such a long time. I think maybe in the early 90s, our teachers didn't really have much to go off. So PE was definitely, it wasn't given the resources, it wasn't given the time of day. People didn't want to teach it because there was no firm guidance. And of course, like if you don't have a syllabus document that is going to guide you, of course you're not going to feel confident. If you don't have a syllabus that is going to tell you how and what to teach, of course you're not going to have that confidence to deliver that curriculum, to deliver those skills in the most effective way. So look, you can understand why for 150 years, PE has had such a bad rap in our country and in our state. I got so fired up, I had to tell Daniel, he came home for lunch, and I was like, oh my God, he's like, Kel, you look a bit emotional. I'm like, I am emotional. Like this has been my bread and butter for 22 years. I wanted to be a primary school teacher at first, but it wasn't until I was in year 8 in 1995 that I was like, no, I want to be a PE teacher. So I've been passionate about this for a very long time. 30-something years, my friend. It is so close to my heart. Anyway, let's get back on track. So we then had the 1999 syllabus where we had a separate K-6 PDHPE syllabus. And then it was like very explicit. This is how you teach those fundamental movement skills. These are what they are: locomotor, non-locomotor, object control, sorry. And then we had another syllabus arrive. So 2018, and I was part of that, the delivery of the professional learning for that. I didn't write it, so don't blame me. But in 2018, it was all put together. So you had these, two separate documents prior to that, meshed together, and in their wisdom, the powers that be tried to create a continuum from kindergarten, early stage 1, to stage 5 of the same outcomes, but differentiated across the curriculum. So, of course, teachers were confused. Things were dumbed down. Things weren't explicit enough. And so fundamental movement skills got a little bit lost in that. So, depending on where you are in the scheme of things, depending on your age, you either taught under the explicit 1999 scaffold back in those days. You may have trained in the diluted version in 2018, but in that version, in the 2018, the current syllabus for K-6 and 7 to 10, fundamental movement skills are not explicitly taught. They're it talks about running, it talks about movement, it talks about physical activity, but it doesn't actually explicitly say this is what our kids are doing. So I think for the last 6 years, a lot of primary teachers have been a bit lost. We're playing sport because that's what their primary school teachers show them. That's what they know. And of course, we revert back to our previous experiences. For me, my primary teachers, I remember being inside, being near our canteen and having hula hoops and doing things in our hula hoops. I remember the sports shed or the PE storeroom. I loved that. I spent a lot of time in there cleaning it up, as you do, perfectionist, clean freak. And I don't remember much else about that, about primary school PE, but I remember being near the canteen doing something with hula hoops. Anyway, I think back then was very gymnastics-y, very rhythmic. That kind of, there was an era of that as well. Health hustles were back in the day, but in the 2018 version, the current syllabus, there has definitely been fundamental movement skills aren't as explicit. They've been lost. They've been lost for 6 or so years in our syllabus. And if you are a teacher who was in the 90s, in the 80s, so in our 40s, 50s, or even in your 30s, the primary teachers that showed you what to do, or even the high school PE teachers, I think that it would have been through the lens of sport and not movement and not skills. Please, if you had a very different experience in primary or high school, please say no, Kel, it was so different for us. I'd love to hear about it. But for majority of teachers who are currently practicing, maybe older teachers in their 60s, you're of that age, you guys probably had some really great fundamental movement skills happening in your class, in your school, when you were in primary school. But for the majority of us currently teaching, fundamental movement skills are probably not there. It has been through the lens of sport. So we've lost our way a little bit. But thank God, and again, there was a lot of backlash, there was a lot of research, a lot of the key researchers in physical education across Australia, and I want to get a lot of those guys onto the podcast. They spoke up and said, look, this syllabus, this 2018 syllabus, it's lost its way a little bit with PE. It's about movement, it's about physical activity, yes, but it hasn't actually explicitly said fundamental movement skills. So I would imagine that there's a lot of us who don't feel so confident teaching fundamental movement skills. And I only realized the other day when I was doing our content for social media in the school holidays that even the word FMS probably makes no sense to people. FMS stands for Fundamental Movement Skills. And I had a lot of teachers outside of New South Wales say to me, oh, we've been teaching that like that for ages. I'm like, yeah, you guys have, but teachers in New South Wales haven't. It has been out of the syllabus for so long. And there's been a rocky road for New South Wales primary PE. So, of course, we're going to revert to what we know, what we've seen being taught by our teachers, and that's through the lens of sport. So, look, I think it's a great thing. It is a great shift. Fundamental movement skills are in the new 2024 syllabus, ready to be taught next year. But if you haven't had that experience, if your primary teacher didn't really show you, model it to you, demonstrate it to you, you probably have no idea. If your high school PE teacher didn't break down those skills, you would have no idea. And I can say, hand on heart, someone who has come through the sporting background, of course, I feel confident to move my body. I feel confident. I know how to hold my body. I know how to hold a ball. Like netball has been my thing. But if I wasn't sporty, I wouldn't know those skills. So I then wouldn't be able to teach that. And I know for me, my PE teachers, it was all through the lens of sport. And for me as a teacher, I taught PE, physical education, through the lens of sport my whole career. 16 years as a classroom PDHPE teacher here in New South Wales, it was through the lens of sport, not physical education. So an apology to all of my students across the years. I taught you sport. I didn't teach you PE. So anyway, that's a story for another day. So I really think it's a confidence gap and a resource gap with what we have, where we are right now. And a lot of teachers who have been talking to are like, I don't have the confidence. I don't have the tools. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to teach this explicitly to my kids. I know how to teach phonics. I know how to help my kids learn their times tables, to provide practical activities, to, teach my kids how to read and write, but I don't know how to teach them to move their body. And that's completely okay. I'm going to apologize on behalf of the systems, on behalf of education in New South Wales for such a long time. And if you're watching this and you're a leader, if you're watching this and you're a primary teacher, or if you're a PDHPE teacher, or if you have been part of any of these curriculum reforms, I'm here to have a conversation with you because I think we need to create this awareness across New South Wales, across Australia even, to strengthen what we do in primary PE. And I'm so passionate about this. Like, I don't think I've ever been more passionate about something ever before because it makes a difference to our kids. If we teach those fundamental movement skills from an early age, we are going to have people who feel and love their bodies and feel confident in what they're doing, to move, to experience, to feel so much more than what we have right now. And we are a nation of sport lovers, but we're a nation of sport watchers. And I want to change that. And I think it starts with you as a teacher here in New South Wales. And if you're outside of that, we need your help because there's a lot of great things happening in other states in our country. But I think New South Wales, we need to step up. We actually need to step up our game with how we're teaching primary PE. And look, I know there's lots of beautiful, hardworking, skilled, confident primary teachers teaching PE effectively, but I also know that it's the first thing that goes. It's the last thing to get budget. It's the last thing to get focused because there's this history, there's this 150-year history of PE being very sporty, being drilled, being, weighing people, comparing their bodies against each other. That stuff has to go. If you're still doing fitness testing at your school, if you're still measuring your students and comparing them against each other, that sort of stuff has to go. Our kids do not deserve to be compared against each other with outdated techniques and outdated research. Anyway, look, I'm here for it. I'm very fired up today. It's the resources that we need. We have this new syllabus and we can go back to that the Get Skill, Get Active resource. It's still gold, like it has very, very good explicit skills. And certainly if you are stuck with ideas, we are here to support you. Lyndall has created the most phenomenal resources I've ever seen for PE. And like I said, 22 years I've been doing this, very long time. But I've also done research. What else is out there? This document, Get Skilled, Get Active, is great, but it's like very good at how do you teach it explicitly, but then there's no games to kind of like support it, or like lots of ideas. Lyndall has lots of ideas. She's got lots of resources that she's created for our K-6 primary PDHPE membership, cue cards, checklists, ideas. If you're then going to progress the kids through like specific sports skills, you then kind of move to that next part. Checklists, Google Slides to bring that to life in your classroom through movement breaks instead of brain breaks. Anyway, look, I could be here all day. The fire has been lit. I've got more to say about this, and it's funny, like I see a lot of teachers in their 40s and their 50s just lose motivation, lose their spark, but that spark, like I'm here for it. I'm ready to shape things up in primary PE in New South Wales. So again, if you're outside of New South Wales, we have lots of resources to support you as well, because I realised that a lot of researchers, a lot of university researchers, lecturers, they spend so much time on creating like mapping documents or, stimuluses or whatever it is. But then the practical, actual, tangible tools in the classroom is lacking. So if you are a primary teacher here in New South Wales, or if you are a primary PE specialist, I forgot to talk about that side of things, but just quickly, shortage in the early 2000s for primary jobs in New South Wales high schools. Universities overinflated it. They accepted everyone. And so then a lot of high school PE teachers ended up teaching in primary schools. I tried to find evidence and statistics and data. I can't find it online. If you have anything, let me know. But a lot of our high school trained PE teachers are working in primary schools, in Catholic or independent schools across New South Wales or Australia, because they couldn't get a job in a high school. So of course that sporting lens, that there's a special name for it. I think it's multi something skills. I don't know what the name is right now. Again, research this morning. A lot of high school teachers are now teaching in primary. So again, it's through that sporting lens. But again, if you're a primary teacher in New South Wales, either a primary PE specialist or a primary teacher, teaching all this stuff for the new syllabus, and if you would love some support, some resources, some ideas, cue cards, all the things, head to thelearnnet.com/primary. If you're outside of New South Wales and you'd like some support, resources, ideas, cue cards, some activities, head to thelearnnet.com/PE to check those resources out. And if you want a copy of that resource I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, head to thelearnnet.com/ what do we call it? PE history, I think I call it. Anyway, proper links will be underneath the podcast. As you can hear, I'm fired up. Let's have a conversation about it. Spotify and YouTube have comments. Please comment. If you're a researcher finding this and would love to add to the conversation, please let us know, contact us, and I'd love to have a conversation about this out loud with some other passionate PE specialists, primary teachers, high school PE teachers, experts, all the things. Anyway, welcome to term 3, my friends. It's going to be a busy one. We have 6 months to prepare for the brand new K-6 and 7 to 10 PDHPE syllabus, but know that you're not alone. We are here to support you every step of the way. And if you want us to support you, head to the links in our show notes so we can help you just reclaim that time and just get you on track. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. This episode was brought to you by the K-6 Primary and 7 to 10 PDHPE memberships, the CAFS Collective, and the Health and Movement Science membership. Our community is designed to support and empower busy teachers like you. Explore them along with a suite of helpful teaching tools at thelearnnet.com. If you've loved today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share with a colleague, take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at kellybell.coach. I love seeing what resonates with you. Make sure you subscribe to Apple Podcasts or Spotify to stay connected. And if you took even one thing away from today's chat, I'd be so grateful if you could please leave us a review. See you next week. Here's to finally reclaiming your time as a busy New South Wales teacher.